and I want to do small simulation. If I want to show my students what is a low pass filter and what is the response, I have to install more than 10 GB of file to just show that.
Exactly.
And it takes a lot of time. And nowadays teachers are not just working in one field, they're working in a lot of fields. And it's not so easy to have installing all the softwares for all the courses they give.
True. Yeah, very true.
So the online tools are like you don't have to worry about installation. You just open, you just take any. For example, a lot of people nowadays are preferring to take the netbooks like Google, Google Chrome. I forgot the name. Something related to Google Chromebooks. They can open it. They can't install anything other than some platform. So web apps are very good. I have seen finite element analysis and very complex things done in the web browsers. So I thought maybe we can use these technologies to even use for the engineering and mathematical purpose. That was the first thing. Another thing I saw that hardware integration to MATLAB is not very direct. We can do it, but there are a lot of packages. If you want to buy, it is very costly. And if a student wants to buy and do it, it's almost not reachable to him. And also, if you want to work for 1 or 2 semesters, or teachers, they want to teach for 1 semester and next semester you want to teach something else, they can't buy a big MATLAB and keep it for them forever. So it's more useful. They can use for short time as well. That's the main thing we have. Well, the hardware part is not yet ready, but that's the actual plan. So to implement algorithms on the hardware so that the researchers and teachers can also use it. And also I'm implementing some not yet started, not yet implemented, but the planning like share within share privately, share publicly. So whatever you do, you can share it with your teams so that teacher can make some simulation and share it with all the students. So all of them can access it and they can use it. In MATLAB, you have to send an email. If you make any changes, you have to send another email. But here, if you put one classroom, you update all the models and the students can instantly access what's happening with the professor. We can use the technology, web technology for that. That's another object.
Do you have any plans? What is the feasibility of connecting a hardware to online platform? It's like a, you might have heard about remote labs, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, the concept of remote lab is a little different from this because for that you need a server and the hardware should be connected to the server. In this case, it is more like if you have done Arduino projects, there is a Arduino web editor. So you can type the program inside in the web editor and you can program the Arduino from the web itself. For that, you have to install a plugin. It's called Arduino Create, I guess. Arduino, this app, not this one, this one, Arduino Create Agent. Oh, you can't see my screen. Let me share my screen.
You can share.
Okay. So, can you see my screen now? Is my screen visible?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
No.
Here.
No, Suresh.
It's not.
Can't have a net issue at my side probably. It's like I could. No, it's a blank screen. I could see only blank screen.
Stop and share again.
Yeah, we can see your video clearly.
Okay. What about the screen now? I'm sharing my screen.
Yeah, now it's clear, Suresh.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there is one app for the Arduino. They say Arduino Create Agent.
Okay.
You have to install it. It's a small application. If you install it on your desktop, you connect any Arduino board, and it will let you program from the Arduino website. On Arduino website, you can type your code, and you can just press program button, and it will install on your device. So our plan is to make something similar. You will be getting one small program to install. It will be like 2 MB. You install it on your computer, and it will give access to all your USB ports. So whatever you connect to USB ports, we can see it from the UMAC, and we'll try to manipulate. I mean, we try to use it for our implementing our algorithm.
Okay.
That's the plan. Yeah.
Very good, Suresh. So we have more than 20 participants.
Okay.
So the participants, if you have any queries related to the previous sessions or the mathematical concepts, yesterday we were discussing about differential equation solving. So if you have any doubts related to the subject or tool, you're free to chat, or you can free to talk to the resource person. Please unmute yourself and you can pose your questions. Thank you.
Okay, I want to, if no one is having doubt, let me share some of the bugs in the program which we have found out recently, and I'll tell you so that if you find the same, you can try to solve it.
Okay.
The one bug is if the model is very big, it is taking more than one screen. I mean, for example, let me show one model which is bigger than one screen. For example, this one is more than one screen, right? So if you have scope or any pop-up windows on the other side of this, I mean, if it is very big, if you click here, it may not open. It's opening now, but if you see, it's not opening properly because actually it should say Q, but it's saying gain. So it's not the same pop-up window. It's a error in the program. To avoid this, what we can do is, let me show you what we can, how we can solve this. We have to click this show outline. Show outline is, there will be a small window here, and it will show outline of our whole model. For example, if you put any block here, it shows the outline. So just using this, we can solve this problem. So if you want to move around, you have to use this to move around. So if you find any problem in opening a scope or something, just save the file. Next time you click this show outline and work with the project. So now I'm going to open this, the same problem, the same one again. Now if I go here and I click, now you can see it is Q. It is detecting the proper scope. Before it is detecting the one beside this. It is an error which I will solve after finishing this workshop. But for now, this is the way of getting rid of this error. Just using this outline, show outline. This is one error. The other error is someone sent me a message that if you add one block, instead of adding one block, it's adding 3 blocks at a time. So for this, there is what we can do is we have to refresh it and it will solve. I don't know exactly why it is happening. I have to look into the code and why it's happening. It's very rare that happens. So I don't know yet what is the reason, but I will try to find it out. So if you have the same problem, if you're adding one block and it looks like only one block, but if you move it, the top block, you can see 2 more blocks below that. If it happens like that, you can just refresh it and see it again, if it works or not, and that will solve the problem. I can't reproduce the problem because it's very rare, but if it occurs, please make sure that you refresh the page and it will solve. And also another, it's not a problem, but it's a part of the project, but you may not know. For example, you start this to connect, you click here and you want to connect it, but later on you changed your mind and you don't want to connect anything, but you do whatever, it's not, this wire is always dangling with your mouse and you don't want. So what you can do is you have to right click. If you right click, it will stop this wire to propagate, and you can remove this. How you can remove? Edit, remove useless wires, or you can select and delete, or you can press Ctrl D. In that way, you can remove any of these 3 options. You can remove all the wires not used. So these things I wanted to tell you. Okay.
Yeah. More or less, this programming, Suresh, is like similar to the LabVIEW connectivity, right? Between the components. So
yes.
My question is, what is the compatibility of connecting 2 blocks among themselves? So in LabVIEW, we have some issues. So immediately, like there's a wiring errors will coming to cause incompatibility features. So do you have such kind of incompatibility features over here?
No, actually no, because what I would make sure here is all the wires, it should be carrying a matrix. So whenever you connect 2 blocks, for example, you connect here to here, this wire internally thinks that you are connecting this one to this one, but what it represents is it is carrying a matrix. Always wires carry matrix in our and the matrix you can fill with numbers or any kind of numbers or any logical values, true, false, those things. But at the end of while interpreting the values, it automatically interprets true as 1, false as 0, and any other number it tries to convert itself. Most of the time you don't need to use any conversions, you can just connect, but you have to make sure that the dimensions are good. For example, this is 1 by 1 matrix, right? Yeah. If you want to multiply 1 by 1 matrix with any other 1 by 1 matrix, it is all right. But if you want to multiply 2 by 1 matrix with 2 by 1 matrix, it is not possible because you have to see matrix multiplication compatibility. Yeah. If you don't do anything properly, it will give an error. For example, let me show you. Let me put one example. If you put 1, 2, and another one, 3, 4. And if you want to multiply these two, go to here and say multiply. Actually, we don't need scope, we need a display. So let me put a display. Okay. It says it's an error. It shows here with this symbol. If you can see on triangle, it says it's an error. If you click, it's a dimension mismatch. So it says you can't multiply these 2 matrices. It's not possible. So you can transpose it and you can multiply it. So you can say transpose, go to matrix operation, transpose it, multiply. Now it is 2 by 1 matrix multiplied by 1 by 2 matrix. So the answer should be a 2 by 2 matrix.
Yes. Finite, yeah, correct.
Yeah. So you can connect any block to any block, but make sure the matrices are of same compatible for throughout the.
So we have matrix point of view, right?
So yeah, it's
not the size or yeah. Okay.
Yeah, if you want to add two matrices, also the two matrices should be of same dimensions, right? So something like that. So whenever you are working with matrices, you should be extra careful to make sure that dimensions are good. And also, for example, if you are doing some integration, for example, I want to integrate this. It's absolutely fine. We can integrate this. But let me show you what's the error we can face. If you say integrate this, just press it. We see an error here in integration. Why is it not possible? It is not because it is a matrix. It is because the initial conditions which you have given for only one value. But here it is a 2 by 1 matrix. So you have to give two initial conditions here and apply changes, and you can integrate it. And it will integrate. So whenever you are working with matrices, you should be extra careful with almost all the blocks. You should make sure all the blocks are working properly. For example, if you multiply here, the multiplication are different types of multiplication. You want to multiply like matrix, or you want to multiply element wise. This is actually not scalar product, it's element wise product. I will change it. So element wise is like 1 multiplies with 3 and 2 multiplies with 4. In that case, transpose is not required. I can remove this transpose. I can connect this to this one. And then instead of putting a matrix multiplication, I will just use scalar multiplication, or actual terminology should be element wise multiplication. And if we run, so it shows 1 times 3 is 3 and 2 times 4 is 8. So whenever you are, it should be more from your end. You have to tell the computer properly how you want the matrices to be treated.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Suresh.
You're welcome. If there are no other questions, we can start with today's plan.
Yes.
Okay. So welcome to the third day workshop course. Today we will see how to do mathematical modeling to a DC motor, and then to a rotational joint in a robot. And then we will use some approximations, and we finally get a model which represents the robot. And then we'll implement PID controller to control robot arm. That's work for today. From today onwards, I expect you to understand the theoretical part as well. If you don't understand, please, if you don't understand during the time of this conference, you can look later on and you can come up with the doubts. That's why we have a 30 minutes doubts session in the starting. So any doubts, you please come and ask me, or you can look for yourself, but make sure you know whatever we are doing today for tomorrow's class, because from now onwards, it will be like a chain. Until yesterday or even today, what we are doing is, it's not part of the adaptive control, but it's basics to understand adaptive control. So from today onwards, I expect you to understand whatever we are seeing in the class. If you are not understanding, you can you have 1 day to learn and you come up with the doubts. I'm sure we can do it. So let's start with mathematical modeling of DC motor. Okay. So let us see how we can model a DC motor. The DC motor, the first differential equation represents the Kirchhoff's voltage law. The Kirchhoff's voltage law for a DC motor, if you connect voltage to a circuit, you know the sum of all voltages in a mesh is equal to 0, right? So that's what it says here. The voltage in inductor, the voltage in resistance, and we are using negative symbols, so we are putting the other side. It's like the same, the applied voltage, and this is the back EMF. Sum of all these voltages is 0. Some are negative, so we are putting the other side to look more beautiful, the equation, but it's actually Kirchhoff voltage law, the first one. And then we are having, as per the, if you understand the electrical machines in a DC motor, the torque is proportional to the current. So we are using Km as a torque constant. So what we are saying is torque is equal to Km times the current. In the back EMF, also in the electrical machines, we know it is it depends on the velocity or the speed at which the velocity is angular velocity. I mean, the speed at which it moves. Actually, it is not theta. It's theta. Theta is the position, and omega is the angular velocity. We are using this terminal. It's written here. The theta. See, the rotor position is theta m, and the angular velocity is omega. Okay. So the back EMF is proportional to the rate at which the motor is rotating. So we use this formula. So you can see how it develops. We are using the basics, like we know Kirchhoff's voltage law, we know this one, torque, we know back EMF from the formulas of electrical machines. And this is all we have to know for modeling and DC motor. Now we go to the next part. When it rotates, what are the dynamics in the mechanical part of the motor? So what we have? We have inertia. We have damping constant. I will talk about this, but first let's understand this part. If you know the Hooke's law, it says for the linear motion, the mass times acceleration plus the damping factor times velocity plus the what we call this, the position times the spring constant is equal to the forces acted upon them, or we can say all the forces is equal to 0. That's what the Hooke's law want to say. If you translate the same thing into the rotational movement, it is equivalent to say that all the forces in the rotational is equal to 0. What are the forces we have? One is because of the inertia. This one is because of the viscous friction, and this one is the torque exerted by the electrical motor. I mean the electrical machine. It's not written here. I don't know. Okay, it's the torque exerted by the electrical machine. And here is something we have to understand. This is one second. Okay, sorry for the interruption. Okay, let us. Okay, so this is torque of the motor, and this is the torque we are the load torque. In this case, the load is the robot we are connecting to the electric motor. So the torque is divided by R. The R is the gear ratio. If you connect a gear, the gear ratio will play a crucial role in torque. If you give a little torque, it gives at the end of the gear, you receive more torque because you are reducing the velocity, I mean the angular velocity. So we already know the velocity times torque is constant, which is power. The power given by the motor is the power received by the robot. But the motor rotates at high speed and the robot rotates at little lower speed. So the torque is divided by the gear ratio. So this equation gives all the dynamics of the mechanical part of the robot. What we are assuming is we are connecting one motor, electric motor, to a robot joint. Which joint are we connecting? Let me show the joint which we are talking. In this robot, we are using this robot as a reference. And we have a lot of joints here. We have actually 6 degrees of freedom, so we have 6 joints, but we are not taking all into consideration. We are not taking all into consideration. We are taking only one joint, and that is this one. The rotational movement, this rotational movement we are taking into consideration. This is a linear joint because it's not affected by the gravity. If you say take this joint, there is always a constant force of gravity acting on this arm. But here the gravity force is negligible, or it's not at all considered as some variable. It will be translated into the friction. So we can say that there is no non-linearity acted on this joint. So we are working on this joint because we are learning only the linear systems. So this equation represents the mechanical dynamics of this joint of the robot. Any doubts, please ask me. If you have any doubts in the electrical modeling or mechanical modeling, please ask me the doubts. At this point of the time, you should be comfortable using all these 4 equations. This 2 differential equations and 2 static equations. This differential equation is the electrical one. These 2 static equations come from the electrical machines. And this one is Hooke's law implemented to the rotational systems. Okay, so let's go to the next one, which is an example. Let's see the example. It says simulate the system using the integration blocks. So what is the system? All the models we have seen, the 2 differential equations and the static relations. So let us make small modification to the differential equations, not a big changes, small changes like moving one side of the variables to the other side. So by rearranging this, we can get these things, these equations 5 and 6. If you see this 5 and 6, what we can do is we put integration here and we get the value of current and the position. So let us simulate this. These are available in the course material, the example 11. So let us open the example 11. Okay. So let us understand this. If you have seen the control systems already in your course, it is like block diagrams, and what we are going to do is block diagram reduction in the future to reduce it to small block. So let us see this part first. It's current, derivation of the current. So this is current and this is IA dot. It's difficult to spot dot on top of I, so that's why I'm using dI by dt, but I can even say that it's I dot. So it's this integration, this is I and I dot, but we know as per the formula, the I dot or I di by dt is equal to this formula, right? So what does it say? R divided by L, the negative times R divided by L times IA is the first term, and I times R divided by L is negative here. So this, the first term is here, R divided by L, R divided by L times IA connected to this one. The what is the other term is V minus VB divided by L, and this negative cancels and we get positive for the VB, and VA should be negative. Wait, I did a mistake. No, actually it is an error. It should be, this should be negative and this should be positive, so that multiplication is properly used. Actually, the best way is to this minus should be coming here. This minus is applicable only to this. I can't edit here. Okay. I don't know how to change this. One second, I will try to change it so that. I can't change it.
Okay. 37.
Okay, I'm sorry for the delay. So this is how the equation is. The first one is minus R by L times IA. So we are having here minus R by L times IA. The second one says V minus VB divided by L. So how we get VB? So how we get VB is we have to see the slide number 4. In this, we have the VB defined as KB multiplied by the velocity, angular velocity. So if you see here, the VB is KB multiplied to angular velocity. For a moment, let us say this is angular velocity. When we go there, we will understand that it is angular velocity. For this moment, let's say this is angular velocity. Okay. So we have VB here, and V is the voltage which we are applying to the motor. So we can give any constant or any value which we want, and we give here. So the difference is V minus VB, and we multiply with 1 divided by L. Multiply by 1 divided by L, and you get the sum of these two gives us to the this di by dt. So this is how we design this part of the electrical part of the system. For the mechanical system, we're going to use the next equation, next differential equations, the equation number 6. If you have equation number 6 in our mind, we can say we have double derivative. So we need two integrals. So we put two integration symbols. So this is mechanical part of the system. We have two integrals. So if you say this is the position if you say this is theta, So this is theta. So this is called dot theta. So this is dot theta, or you can also say it is omega, because theta one before is dot theta, and here it is differentiation of omega. It is omega dot. So we can say it is omega dot or also we can say it is theta double dot. Okay, so this is theta, the position, this is the angular velocity, and this is the angular acceleration, or theta double dot. And what is the formula for theta double dot? Is equal to 1 divided by Jm, 1 divided by Jm times this one is minus B divided by Jm, minus B divided by Jm. So let us see, this is minus B divided by Jm multiplied to the omega or the dt by dm by d theta by dt. So we are multiplying here and we are taking this. This is one term. What is the other term? The other term is theta m minus tau m minus tau L by R. Tau L is the load, which we say we can put whatever load we want. So we are using this as one constant. This is tau. For now I'm putting is 0, and we are multiplying with this one, 1 divided by R, and we are resting it with the torque produced by the motor. What is the torque produced by the motor? The current times Km. It is given by the equation number 2. If you see the slide number 4, and the equation number 2 says the torque is proportional to the current, and we are using Km as the factor. So this is a Km factor. So this is the term where the electrical thing joins the mechanical system through this one. So we get here the torque of the motor. This is the torque of the load. The sum is here. This here is actually negative. So we have this, and the whole thing is divided by the J. We divide it by J, and then we add to this one. We add these two, and we get that is equal to theta double dot. So we are implementing this 6 equation, the differential equation 6, through these blocks. So if you see all these blocks, now you can clearly get it. This is electrical part of the simulation, and this is mechanical part of the simulation. And this 1 by R is the gear ratio. So this is the position, angular position of the motor, and if we divide it by the R, the gear ratio, you get angular position of the robot. So the motor may rotate at higher speed, and it may have another position, but the robot is related by R. So we divide it by R, and we get this is the angular position of the robot. So let us simulate this and see what are the results. So what we are going to do is we give 10 volts and see what are the outputs we are receiving. The speed and the position of the motor and position of the okay, 1 second. This is not it's just Q, it is theta. So it is theta. So let us see by running this. So what it happens is if you give 10 volts as the motor voltage, what is happening? The velocity is 0 initially, it is increasing and reaching certain value and staying there forever. And if you see the position, it is in 0, it is slowly increasing, and it happens same with the motor as well. It's in 0 and slowly increasing. So this is a behavior which we expect. So if you switch on a robot and you connect a motor, and if you connect it to the plug to run, it will keep rotating in the same direction for until you switch it off, right? So that's what we are receiving here. And how did we use these values? Km, Kb, all these values are available in the variable manager. We have defined here the inductance value, resistance value, Km factor, the gear ratio we are taking 100. This is the inertia of the motor and the gear systems. And this is a viscous friction we are discussing, and the back EMF factor, Kb. All these things we are having here. I have taken these values from one of the books and also some from the real machine data. So this data is somewhat represent the real life machines. So this is the simulation for this robot. So now let's go to the next part. Do you have any doubts in this example 11? If you don't have any doubts in the example 11, let's go to the next example.
Hello.
Yes. Yes,
Sir,
Kalyan.
can we measure the responding time, sir?
Your voice is not clear. Can you please repeat it?
So can we measure what is the response time?
The response time. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So actually what we are doing is we are giving 10 from the 0 time, right? Because it's not a step, it's actually constant, but it considers a step from the point 0. So this is the response, how long it takes. It takes some like 200 let me see. The final value is 2.424. So we can say 63 point sometime how much we are getting the time constant, 63% of the value. It will be somewhere here. So if we, for example, somewhere here approximately. So the value is 1 into 10 to the power of minus 2. It is like 0.1 second.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, let me show. Let me see how much it is. It's 0.01 second is the response time for this one, or we can say time constant for this one, for this system. But let us we will see this in the coming slides. We are going to see in much in detail. We didn't calculate yet. In much in detail, we will see in the some of the next slides. Yeah. So let's go to the next one. It is implementing the same system, but instead of integration block, let us use transfer function block. So what does it do is the same blocks, instead of the same system, we are going to implement. We're going to implement in transfer functions. So let me show you the design, the model. Okay. So if you see here, this part we are simplifying, or we are putting all these things together to one block, and we are representing here. And all these things we are putting together and representing in this block. For that, we can see this what you call mathematical support for that. The first equation, differential equations, if we convert into Laplace transform, we can write it in this form. The fourth one, the fourth equation can be written in this way, that Laplace transform. And we see here, this is current, this is angular velocity and the position. We are keeping the angular velocity and position separately because we want to use this tapping point. If you put all this in a differential equation, I mean in one transfer function, we can't tap this part. That's why I'm putting this one separate from this part. So we have one integral to integrate the velocity to get the position, the theta. What I'm saying is I'm not including this integral as well into the transfer function because I want to tap this part. If I put all in one block, I can't collect this. I can't know what is the value of this from the model itself. So I'm putting it separately. And if we simulate, the result should be same. Sure. We get the same result because we are giving 10 volts as the input, and we expect it to move and the velocity reaches certain point and stays stable, and the motors continue to rotate. Okay. So that is simulation in using transfer functions. So, does anyone have any doubts until here? 12. The 11 and 12 are something very direct we did. It's not anything new, which we have seen already how to solve differential equations using in yesterday's class. It's an implementation of yesterday's class. Okay. Any doubts? Okay. Let's go to the next example. Next, what we call this? Next section. Can you hear me? Is it clear? My voice is clear?
Yes, it's very clear, Suresh. Yes.
Okay. So let us see a little bit more into this, and let's try to approximate this, or let's make this whole block diagram into small. We have big block diagram. We know we can always make the block diagram reduction. We can reduce into one block, and we can make it shorter to represent, right? Also, we can also make approximation, but for that, let us understand the concept of time constant. For a system, for this system, this is a first order system. For the people who don't know what is first order, second order, the first order is with one differentiation in the differential equation. If we say second order, we have two time differentiations. For example, in our case, if we see this first one, this differential equation is of the first order because we have only one time we are derivating this the current. But if you see here, it is second order because we are derivating two times. That's the order. So for a first order system, this is a representation in the transfer function. If we write in this form, that this value, the coefficient of S, we call it time constant. Time constant is value which we use to understand that the system is reaching 63% of its final position, because it's exponentially tries to meet the final position. We don't know exact final position because it meets at the infinity, but 63% of it reaches in this one time constant. Okay, so why is it important? Let us see, first find out the time constants for our electrical part and for the mechanical part. If we write these equations in this format, 1 divided by, actually use tau, but we are using tau for torque, so I'm using TS here. So we are 1 divided by TS S plus 1. So we say this is the time constant for the electrical system. And if we write this, this is a time constant for the mechanical part of the system. So why is it important? Let us see L divided by R. What is the value of L divided by R? And let us see what is the value of Jm divided by B. If you go to the variable manager, let us see what is L divided by R. Let us say it is electrical constant. L divided by R, right, is 0.002286. And what is the other one we are having is mechanical constant. If you have mechanical constant, we get Jm divided by Bm. So what is Jm? Jm divided by Bm. If we do this, we get 1.393. So what does it says? By the time it reaches its 63%, it is almost very close to the final value, because it's, if you see, it is like 2 milliseconds. In 2 milliseconds, it reaches it's a 63% value. For like in 10 milliseconds or so, it will reach its final value, almost close to the final value. So we can say that, let us see in the next slide. So we can say the electrical time constant is very, very tiny when as compared to the mechanical time constant. It happens most of the electromechanical systems. For most of the electromechanical systems, this is true, that the electrical time constant is very tiny as we compare with the mechanical time constant. So what we do in the, for our practical purpose is, we consider that L by R, or the time constant, is 0. We don't want to use it. We make it 0 so that our order will be reduced. What is reducing of order? If you multiply L by R to 0, we are multiplying S with 0. S is the one which gives the dynamics. So if we remove the dynamics, the order will be reduced. So instead of having one differential equation, we are having a static relation now. What is the relation between these two? We get rid of all the dynamics and we say it is just 1 by R. Why? Because we are putting this L by R is equal to 0, and it says 1 by 1 is 1. So 1 times 1 by R is 1 by R. So we say the dynamics is equal to 1 divided by R. So this is the first approximation. Does anyone have any doubts in this approximation? Please ask me now.
In practical cases, we can't take L by R equal to 0.
I mean, you can't take it L by R is equal to 0 for all the cases. Only in this case we can take, because we are trying to reduce the, we are trying to compare it with the mechanical system. Why are we comparing it? Is because we are having both of them in cascade. When you have both in cascade, these dynamics are in cascade with this one. So if it is reacting very quick, it is like it is static. So in this case, you can remove all these dynamics and you can connect this one directly to this. Only in this case, not in the static relations, you can't do it.
Fine, thank you.
Yeah, in dynamics, you can just remove, only because it is in cascade. Yeah. Okay, so we see that we go for the next approximation. If you see here, we are taking gear ratio R, and it is usually very high. We don't see motors moving at 3000 RPM. We always have very slow moving robots as compared to the actual motor shaft movement. So the R is always very big value. And if you see the torque is torque of the torque required by the robot divided by R. So when R is very big, the torque is the effect of this, the load, the robot load is negligible because it's very small. You are dividing by very big number. It happens in a lot of parts of mathematics. When you are dividing a value with a very big value, you approximate it as equal to 0. So we are also doing this, approximating it with 0, so that we don't worry about the dynamics of the load into our model. So whatever load you are connecting, we always consider it as negligible. The dynamics are negligible, not the load itself. So if we see this formula, in this we are putting this part as 0. So we are having this theta dot m divided by tau m. And this part will stay the same. So the equation 11 we can write into this way. So these two approximations will simplify us to make our block diagram in this way. So we have this block diagram. In this we have simplified this and we have removed this part. So what we are having is, let me show this one so we can understand. We have removed this dynamics and we have removed this part. So what we are having now is this part. Let's this part. Only the dynamics are here and these are the constants we are having. So if you compare these two block diagrams, you will understand. And from here you can do like how we solve the control systems block diagram reduction. From this part we go here. What we do is multiply all these things. And this one is in feedback loop with KB. So if you do block diagram reduction, you get this one. And here I always want to make sure this 1 by s is separate from this velocity. Why? Because if you see, this one is first order system and this one is second order system. In the future, if you want to make any first order, the plan is to learn first order identification, first order adaptive control, and then to go to the second order systems. So to make it first order and second order explicitly is easy to access. So instead of joining these two blocks, I'm keeping it separately so that in the future classes we can, if you want to use first order system, we just take this part. If you want to take second order system, we take the complete like this. So if you want to control velocity, you control here. If you want to control position, you control here. So for today, we are going to control the position, but from tomorrow onwards, we will be using velocity for the first order systems and position for the second order systems. So that's why I'm keeping these two blocks separately. So let's see what's next. Okay, now it says verify in example 13. Let's verify that the reduced block diagram, this one, is a good representation of the original system what we had. Does anyone have any doubts until now? We can, otherwise we can go to the simulation part.
Proceed, Suresh.
Let's go to this simulation, the 13. Open it. Okay, so what do we have here? This first one is the transfer function, the complete transfer function, like how we have done in the previous one. And here it is approximating by removing this dynamics. And the last one is the completely we are removing all the dynamics. I mean, we are not removing, we are like, what do you call this? We're reducing the block diagram and we are putting all together into one block, this block. And as I said, I always wanted this one separately. This is Q or theta, and this is Q dot is theta dot. And I'm using Q because this in robotics, the most of the books use Q as a position, and Q for position of the robot. Now we see we are not talking about motor or anything. The voltage is the input and the output is the robotic position. This is position of the robot. Of course, it is angular position and this angular velocity. So let us compare these three graphs. It should look, it may not be exactly equal, but it should be similar or very closely be together. See, all three are together. So what does it say is our block diagram reduction is correct. So we are verifying that we did correctly we have done correctly, the calculations are correct. And also we say that this one is the original one and 2 is the approximation, and 1 and 2 are matching exactly. So ignoring this is not making any effect in our dynamics. So we are verifying that yes, this is good representation of our original model. Okay, so let's go to the step 14. So we have done all these things, but we didn't see the motor, the actual robot moving. So let us make sure how we can use the robot in this case. Okay, let me show the variables before we go to the next one. These are the variables we are using, and for this one we are using this is the reduced block diagram. If you see, this is numerator and this is the denominator. Let us see how I have given. I'm not using exact values. I'm using the variables. Say B, and the denominator is A and 1. So if you see what are those, you can see the B is like this one, and A is this one and this one. So A is in the denominator, B is in the numerator, right? So this is the model we are going to use, and along with the integration. So let's go to the example 14. Let me refresh it once. 14. Okay. So I'm putting all this in a small block to make sure we don't move this part any time. It says this is the robotic dynamics and this is the integral, and then we are using this constant is 180 divided by pi to convert the radians into degrees, because this robot arm which we have here in our sinks is not it doesn't use radians, it uses degrees. So we need a factor to convert it. So we are using this factor here. So it converts. We are putting all other arms to 0. Only we are moving the first joint. Only the first joint will be moved. All other joints will be staying at its own position. So what are we going to do is we are going to give some input. The input is the voltage we are connecting to the motor. For any voltage, for example, we are giving sawtooth wave as a voltage. If we give sawtooth wave, how is the robot going to move? We can see it here. In here we can see the position in graph, and here we can see the actual robot moving. So let us see how. Oh, it's not. Okay. So, and also we take a look at the simulation settings. We are simulating for negative value, means it will simulate forever. It's a infinite time. And we are taking a step size of 1 millisecond. So it's the accuracy of the solver or the integration is 1 millisecond. But we are not taking all the outputs. We are taking only one output for 10 integrations it does, so that it won't be too much loaded. The computer is not loaded. So using these simulation settings, let us run and see what happens. So if you give sawtooth wave as an input, what's happening? This is the response to the position of the robot. The robot is moving in this fashion. If you see, it's actually like a low pass filter. Okay, let us, if you see this. Okay. Now let us give some other a sine wave so that we can understand there is a phase difference. Instead of this, let's give a sine wave. And the sine wave amplitude, let us put 100 volts. And the frequency, let's not give very high, let's give a very small frequency. And frequency type, let's leave it like that and say apply changes. And let us see the scope, how it looks. If you give a sine wave, it looks like this. So you give voltage, the voltage is 100, but the output is something else. I mean, it's the dynamics. If you include the dynamics, this is how it's behaving. So please see if you have any doubts, please ask me in how it is working.
The dimensions of the robot are fixed now, Suresh.
Yeah, the dimensions are fixed. Only one joint, I mean, the dimensions are fixed. Actually, this robot is just the representation of values we are giving. Instead of seeing the graph, what we are doing is seeing in the real life robot how it moves. So for some of us, the just watching these graphs is sometimes it's not visually imaginable. So let us use this robot to imagine how a sine wave looks. I mean, if a robot moves in sine wave, how does it looks? It's actually not sine wave, it's a response to the sine wave. It's also a sine wave, but this is not moving to its zero. It's moving it some other, it's having some phase difference and other things. It's having some zero. It's not moving at it's zero. It's having oscillations with some DC error. Okay. But what's your question again? Is it the dimensions? What is the question again? Please ask me if I answered it clearly.
The question is like you've in setting manager, some variable manager, you've used some constants.
Yeah.
Earlier, like you talked about only we are doing kinematics, right?
Earlier, yes. Yeah. Now we have dynamics.
Yeah. We have selected the various numericals. Is it a fixed to that particular object, or is it randomly like selected numbers?
Now, if we see that what we are doing is we are having the robot. The robot is not considering to this. All we are considering regarding robot is the gear ratio.
Yeah.
All other things are related to the motor itself. Here the dynamics are the dynamics of the motor. The robot dynamics are not included because it's not really required, because the R is very big. The dynamics are cancelled. And also we don't have gravity in this gravity affecting in this axis. So that's why we selected it for the linear system. If you want to do the same thing to this, apply to this arm over here, then we have the gravity into the picture, and this will be non-linear system. It looks like a pendulum then. And we have to model a pendulum, and the pendulum will be included into our dynamics, and it will be a non-linear system. To avoid all these things, to make it linear system, we are moving only this joint. This is a correct representation of this robot.
Yeah.
Professor Suresh,
Yes, sir.
can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah, I can
Sir,
hear.
how can we actually, because as per my imagination goes, the load torque actually, I thought the torque generated by motor will not be sufficient enough to drive the load because it has to move the arm. But we have neglected load torque here. I thought other way around, speed should be reduced and the torque should be increased. I thought that way. And the load torque, I thought actually should be more to actually move the arm. But we have neglected the load torque. Is it only because dynamism only we are considering that under dynamic conditions it doesn't change, or?
Yeah, what you are saying is correct, sir. Like what you are saying is the torque in a DC motor is very less. That's why we are using the gears. What the gears, the R we are representing here is the gears. Where is the R? For example, let me. Here, if you see the torque is divided by the R, because once you put the gear, the speed is converted into the torque. The speed of the electrical machine is converted into the, it's not like converted. We can say that the multiplication of speed and torque is constant, and before the gear and after the gear is the same. So before the gear, the speed is dominating. After the gear, the torque is dominating factor, because the speed is very reduced to by a big factor. So the torque is increased by that factor.
So load torque, can it be neglected here? Load torque of the machine. Can we neglect the load torque? Because
yes.
Load torque has to be high, right, to move the arm, and speed will be low, I think.
Yes, speed will be low. We are neglecting it for what we say. You are talking this side of the robot. You are talking the side of the electrical machine, but what I'm saying is the side of the robot. If you see, we have too much torque and very little speed, and the dynamics applied to the torque won't. I mean, the load won't give any. The change, the load won't give any effect into the dynamics of the system. You add or remove the load, it doesn't affect the dynamics of the system, because you have a lot of torque there at the end of at the robot arm. For example, if the robot is moving and if you put 1 kg extra to move, it doesn't affect. It will move it. It doesn't make any big effect into the motor. The motor speed will be the same because you are passing it through the gear system. But if you give the same torque to the end of the robot, at the end of the electrical machine, you can see a significant difference. The gear is the one which is it's kind of converting the speed into the torque dominating system. Yeah.
So at the electrical machine output, you are saying that the load torque is negligible, right?
Yes, sir.
Speed will be high and torque will be.
Yeah.
Okay. And another doubt, because I'm new to robotics. So as we add on mechanical systems, because as you're saying that the electrical dynamics can be neglected because the time constant is very high when compared to, very low when compared to the mechanical systems. So as we go on increasing the number of mechanical systems, do you think that the electrical dynamics can be neglected and the system becomes even more simple to analyze? analyze?
Yeah,
Something like that?
For example, a lot of the robots which we use in their modeling, they neglect electrical dynamics almost completely. They make it negligible. This is actually taken from a book which uses from a robotic book, and they consider it as zero, the electrical dynamics.
Okay.
If yeah. Oh.
And okay, please.
Did I answer, or please explain the question again if I didn't understand, sir?
Yeah, I think yeah. So I think as the order of the system increases in robotics, the electrical part can be significantly neglected, right, for dynamics.
Yes.
So we have to just deal with the mechanical components.
Yes.
So that's what happens in robotics, right?
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, and if you are considering single joint, don't we include, because I think, are we going towards non-linearity? Do we even include some non-linearities? Because of course, as a starting point, did you start with linearity, and do we go to non-linearities also?
In this course, we are planning only the linear part. The non-linear part, we are not going. The non-linear part comes if we use the other joints. In this joint, you can see that it's rotating. It's actually on the floor, and it's rotating like a motor, and the gravity is not affecting. If you move these joints, this joint, if you see this joint, if this joint is, it's like pendulum. The pendulum is, we know it's a non-linear system, and the non-linearities will appear there.
Okay.
Yes. And also, if you have two joints and its complexity increases, it gets a more non-linear system.
Okay, sir. I think it can. I think we can also solve this by using state space, like.
Yeah, we can use state space to solve this. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Any other doubts?
Yes, sir, I have small doubt, sir.
Yes.
Sir, the load is increased. The inertia also going to be changed, sir.
Yeah.
Is that is not going to affect the response time, sir?
Yeah, that's the main thing which is we are neglecting because of this R. The robot inertia we are neglecting here because of this gear ratio.
Okay, sir. So the torque may be avoided. Okay, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
All the dynamics related to the robot we are neglecting because of the gear ratio. If you see, if you put a big gear, I mean the ratio like 100 and big, and whatever you do in the this end of the, it won't affect much into the other end of the system. The dynamics part I'm saying. Yeah.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. And also remember the robot itself is having inertia from the starting. If you put any 1 kilo, it doesn't affect much into this robot. What we are doing is we are trying to use this robot. It's not realistic representation. The exact objective of this is to simplify as much as possible so that we can work with this model from tomorrow onwards for identification and for adaptive control. The objective is not to give big perfect representation of a robot. So if you want perfect representation of a robot, a lot of things may change here. But our objective is to simplify as much as possible. That's why we are neglecting a lot of stuff.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah. So as I mentioned again, the objective is to make it as simple as possible so that our next courses we can use this model to get some visual representation of what we are doing. So we have any question?
Yeah, sir. This is Dr. Kiran.
Yes, sir.
Sir, your lecture is very nice.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, can we have this arm with 360 degrees rotation?
Actually, this I'm taking from one develop. I didn't develop this. It's developed by someone else, and they have given these limits, sir. The theta 1 can go from minus 180 to 180. The theta 2 from these angles, theta 3 this angle. Only we can use these values. So I'm limiting the movement to minus 180 to 180 degrees.
Yeah. Yeah, we are discussing the modeling. So can we go with the servo motor application for this with this?
Yes, sir. It's, I think I didn't understand properly. Can you please ask again?
No, normally we have some DC servo motor applications.
Yes, sir.
Can we use this for that particular application?
Yes, sure, we can use this because it's, if you see, this is a servo motor now because it's a DC motor and we are giving feedback. So it's a servo motor. What we are doing is just representing here in this robotic arm. But what we are doing is it's a servo motor. Yes, sir. Sure, we can do that. Yes.
Normally in communication systems, so we can use these servo motors to adjust the antenna, say for example. I think you got my point.
Yes, sir.
Can we use this for that application?
Yeah, sure, sir. You mean this application, this UYAMAC, you are referring to this UYAMAC or this scheme of control part? The theoretical part or the program?
This control part I am asking.
Yeah, sure, you can use it. This simplification and this transfer functions, we can use it. Yes, sir. The theoretical, yes, it's valid.
Then how we are going to account the weight, sir, with this arm? How we are going to estimate? Is there an estimation method?
How we can what, sir?
Account the weight.
The weight. Okay, the weight is the inertia. If we see inertia, we are representing from J, the Jm. This is the inertia of the motor.
Okay.
The weight itself is not a problem. Once it's the inertia is the, it's not a problem. I mean, it's not the useful factor in our model. The inertia associated to that mass is the term we are going to use in this model, sir.
We have to think of load torque, I think, sir. He's saying about the weight to be moved.
Yes, sir.
So
yes,
that becomes load torque, I think, right? Load.
If it is against gravity, it will be load. But if it is like most of the time, it is not considered as a load because if you see, sir, rotating a mass is like you are storing the energy. You are not consuming the energy. The energy is consumed only in the friction. If you want to rotate a big mass, what you are doing is you are taking electrical energy and you are putting in mechanical energy. The the weight itself is not the one which consumes. The friction is the one which consumes the what you call the power, energy. Or we can say the torque. It's important to understand sometimes even in the electrical engineering, the capacitor and inductors are not the ones which use the power. They kind of store them. And similarly, the mass and the spring, they don't consume, they just store the energy in different form. So you can get back from them. The only thing which consumes is the friction, or if you do some work, that work is the one which we can say. And in our model, only the friction is the one which is consuming the energy. No, nothing else.
Okay. Okay, sir. Thank you.
Welcome, sir. So this is the dynamics we have seen. So the problem from the control starts from here. So we understand there is a model. We are giving some input and we are getting some other output. But for the controllers, control people, the objective is they want to control the robot like how they want. For example, I want this position to move in the certain way. So what we can do is we have to apply some controller. So let's use the most famous controller, the PID. So let's apply PID controller to this and see how it works. So I'm not going into the theoretical part of the PID controller because it's a very famous controller. So what we have to do is in a PID controller, this is the robot we have. And what we do in PID controller is we find the error between the position we have right now and the position we want. The position we want is called a reference. The reference is like what we want. And what we have is like this one, this value. And you want to give it to this. So what we're going to do is we want to find error. And to the error, we have three. One is proportional. The other one is we do the integration and we multiply with integral. And another one is we derivate it and use it. So we call PID, the proportional to the error, integral proportional to the error, and derivative proportional to the error. So we add all these three and we give as a control. So the error we are finding, we are going to multiply with some value and integrate it and multiply with some value, derivate it and multiply with some value, and we are giving to the system so that it behaves the way we want. So we can see it here in the graph. In the graphs, we are plotting three things. The first thing is the reference, what we want. The second thing is the output, what we are seeing in the robot. And the third one is the what you call the error. We want error to be 0. That's what our objective is. If you have any error, it should go to the 0 as the time goes in the future. So let us see if it happens. Let's put the robot. So what's the plan is we are giving a sine wave. So before we are giving a sine wave, it is moving in a sine wave, but with some phase difference, and also the amplitude is gone. The wave is on little higher. We added some DC component to that. But now let us run this, and it should move exactly the sine wave we are giving here. It's moving, but the value is very small. The amplitude is very small. Let's give. We can move from 180 degrees to 180 degrees. So let us give like 120 degrees to 120 degrees. So it moves. So we are telling the robot how to move it. So the robot got its own dynamics, but with PID controller, we are setting the point which way you want to move. So if you see, we remove this error is 0. It's good. 2 is the robot movement. This is the actual sine wave, how we want the robot to move. And this is how the robot is moving. So we see both are moving exactly like both are like coinciding each other. But if we see the error, there is a small error. It's very tiny error. We can always improve by tuning the PID controller parameters. Here I'm using 10 and other. We can change these parameters and we can see how it changes. And this in VMAC, you can change parameters on the run. For example, I was changing the amplitude and also I can change the frequency. For example, I want to make it little faster to move. I can make it like 1. And let us see if it makes little faster. I think it's not receiving enough signals to move. Okay, now it's working. Let me close it and open it again. It's not receiving signals properly. So let's move back to the previous one. Okay, this is why the sine wave. We can see the another one which I have made it to make it see how we can tune the PID controller. We have less time, so let me do it quickly. So instead of sine wave, we are giving a square wave. It's the reference we need. You can always tune, change the parameters to make sure you are getting the results what you want, what is more representative. Okay. So if we see this, let me put the parameters as I given some damping parameter. Let me give 0 and let us see what happens. It is having some oscillations. If we can see that. Instead of 150. Okay. You can see the robot arm is not moving properly because there are some oscillations. These oscillations can be reduced by adding some derivative component. For example, if I add one here, it reduces, it attenuates the oscillations, or it may completely eliminate it. You see, it's eliminated the oscillations. Now the robot arms moves smoothly. Let me stop the simulation and run again. So instead of oscillations, now it moves smoother, much smooth than compared to before. In this way, we can use the PID controller to control a model. We are not learning PID controller, so I'm not going into the theoretical part, but this is the implementation of PID controller. So if you have any doubts, please ask me.
So Suresh, once theoretically, if we confine with KP, K, KD, then we have to come forward for simulation. Am I correct?
Yeah, first we have to theoretically see its oscillations are not there and the response time is as per your requirement. Then you can simulate and verify it is correct. If you see some error, you can go back to see what's wrong.
Like any other facility in the SUMAIC, no, to change the KPK and like a trial and error based.
Yeah, you can change it here, but for that I don't use
tuning of.
Yeah, tuning. We can tune
tuning
it.
Of PID.
Tuning of PID, yes, sir. We can do that, but not with this robot. I mean, not using watching this. You can watch it through the graphs. It's much better.
Yeah.
It's because the robot is like having little memory of the previous values. So sometimes it may act little different. But if you see these values, it is more representative. For example, if I say KD, I'm changing it to 0, and you can see oscillations changing immediately. You see that? You can see. Oh,
yes.
what happened? Oh, we can see the oscillations started appearing. If you add KD to some value, 0.5, let us see the oscillations may reduce a little. See, we can see the oscillations reduced a little.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we can try in those ways. This Robot
Most
is
of the systems we use PD control, PI controller, right? Why in robotics do we go for D controller? Because normally they say that we avoid D controller because it gives spikes, and I heard that in theory, and we generally go for PI controller. Is there
Yes.
any specific reason why we are going for PD controller in robotics?
No, it's actually we don't go for PD, sir. We go for PI as well. The D I have added, but you see I have a advantage here. I'm simulating not the real life. So I said, I don't like this block. I don't want to use it. So I'm using it only for this purpose, but in the real life, I will not use it. Because any noise here, it will amplify it.
Yeah, amplified. Yeah.
It's so I try not to use it. So people use PI controller most of the time. The P is sufficient. In this case, we don't even need I controller because it's not having any load which constantly acting on it. For example, if you have NR, it constantly moves. So the P is sufficient. Let me show you this. Let me remove this. Let me put it 0 and we run it. It's having some oscillations, but if we reduce the KP value, let us say like 2, we can reduce the oscillations here as well by reducing the KP value. So this is sufficient, the P is sufficient. Let me stop this and see what's the error between these two values. It's coinciding. So it's not a big deal in this case, but let me put a step instead of this so we can understand what is the use of I. So if we go have this. Okay, let me stop this and see the difference. Oh, there is no big difference between the final, but let me make the P value little smaller, like maybe 0.5. But always it should be positive number. We can't go to the negative values. It will make the system unstable if we go negative values. So if with the small gain, we can see that it is slowly approaching it.
Yeah.
But it will never reach. It will never touch this. Why? Because it's always have small error.
Desired. Yeah.
But if you don't want any error, if you use I, it will make sure that it will never have an error. For that, we can add here. We can just have one I. In this system, particularly, we don't have error, but in the real life systems or in other models, we have a small error between P and between the final position and the reference position. In that case, we use PI controller. It will give, it will make us reach the final state quickly and also
desired value.
A desired value. We can guarantee that it will reach after some time. With only P, we can't guarantee that it will reach. With PI together, we can make sure it will reach all the times. And I and the D is also sometimes used when you have too much oscillations and you want to remove. They use D as well, but most of the times we use P and I. Yes. Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Any other questions for me, please?
Can you suggest a specific textbook or a reading material where control system merges with robotics?
There is book. The book I use mostly is Spong. Spong on
Spong. Spong. Robotic Model and Control.
Yes, this is a good book.
Okay, sir. Spong, Robotic Model and Control. Okay. Okay, thank you.
It's also co-authored by Vidyasagar. He's a Telugu, Andhra Pradesh person. He's an
Great.
I had an opportunity to listen to one of his lectures. He's a very good person. A very good researcher. Yeah, he's a author for this book. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Suresh.
Welcome, sir.
So it's a moment for us to end this session, and thank you so much for giving more light on this application of differential equations into real-time models, Suresh. I think we need to go more deeper into the modeling before coming to the simulation. What we understood from this, it's very good to see the outputs when connected to the real-time systems, how they behave. So thanks to your tool for helping us to know that. So can you share what is tomorrow's aspect so that we'll mentally prepare for that session?
Okay, tomorrow we are going to see the parametric identification, and let us talk a little bit about it tomorrow. And the parametric identification means we have this model. If we, for example, if you see it is like A divided by S plus B.
Yes.
The A and B are constants. So what we are going to do is we don't know, we're gonna put some values, fixed values. We are not going to use these values from tomorrow. We're gonna directly put, instead of lot of variables, we're gonna put 0.22 and 9.3 as a fixed values. And let us see if we can identify them. This is a black box, we close this. We don't know what is inside the block. But we just have a robot, we give voltage, we receive the position or the velocity. And what we want to say is, we want to know what are the values of these two things. We want to learn the value is 0.22 and the value is 9.3 for A and B. So we have to
out of responses, knowing the parameters.
Yeah.
Correct, Suresh?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's the idea for parametric identification. We will identify those parameters.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Professor Suresh. Every day you're making it quite interesting. Day by day, the interest is growing. Really, thank you very much for making it quite interesting.
Thank you, sir. Thanks.
Very much. Have a good day.
Welcome, sir. Good night, sir. Good night, all of you. Bye.
Yeah, the participants, if you have any queries, please type it in the chat box so that we'll consolidate and we'll share to the resource person tomorrow. So thank you so much for your presence. Thank you. Thank you all. So material for today's session already posted in the chat box. Also, the previous session video lectures also provided in the chat box. You can go for reference. Thank you. Good night to all.